My hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blue is my hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blue is my hat is like a shark's fin. Yeah, blue is my hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blue is my hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blue is my hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blue is my hat is like a shark's fin.
What is up, people? This is the Shark Attack. I am Sean Williams. It's a somewhat windy, cloudy, and if you go by last night, rain and lightning last night. But this is the Shark Attack. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. First off, I gotta dive right in. This is the feeding frenzy.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Those of you that listened to last night's show know how I feel about these mega international shows that WWE's been doing. And especially how I felt about Super Showdown down in Melbourne, Australia. But I gotta say, as many gripes as I may have had about these shows, and especially about Super Showdown, because for the most part, nothing happens on them, Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander was not one of those gripes. I mean, in all honesty, it shows how far along Buddy Murphy has come along from his days of being that tag team with Wesley Blake in NXT, but also just a testament to how great a talent Cedric Alexander is. I mean, when the crowd was chanting at the Cruiserweight Challenge for Triple H to sign Cedric, that was definitely money well spent. And you know, Buddy Murphy winning the Cruiserweight title, in all honesty, it's his hometown, or home country in this case, and he wins it there. Why not? In that one moment, he helped make the Cruiserweight title as credible as any other belt. And I commend him for that. And you know, Cedric had been holding on to that belt for quite some time. I mean, since WrestleMania even. So, you know, dropping the belt is not going to hurt him. There's still plenty left in there in Cedric Alexander in terms of his talent. And, you know, with adding Mike Kanellis, or Mike, aka Mike Bennett, onto the 205 roster, I'm anxious to see what comes around with 205 Live. It's definitely turned around, and it's only going up from here. So I'm anxious to see what else comes out of it. Next topic I got happens to do with Bobby Lashley going heel. You know, I gotta say this. I liked adding Leo Rush as a manager for Bobby Lashley, kind of going Abraham Washington or AW, however you want to refer to him, in terms of his style. But having Bobby Lashley go heel and just demolish Kevin Owens, let's face it, Bobby Lashley as a face, since he's come back to WWE, stinks. The all smiles and the my man. Come on. I mean, as much bashing as I do about TNA, at least they made the most out of Bobby Lashley as this monster heel, even going as far as to calling him Walking Armageddon. I mean, even when Bobby Lashley was first in WWE and was a face, they never truly established anything in terms of a personality and the type of character that he was supposed to be. So it's only fitting that they make him go heel. And from what I heard, Kevin Owens, I guess this whole thing was because Kevin Owens was needed surgery. So apparently he's taking time off to get that surgery, so maybe it wasn't a face turn, but I do think that when he comes back, you need to do a face turn for Kevin Owens, because you haven't got much left for him to do as a heel. I mean, what else is there? And maybe a change would do him some good. As far as Bobby Lashley goes, him as a heel and with a heel manager in Leo Rush, I only see him going up from here. And maybe even the Universal title. I mean, at this point, nothing could be worse than when Brock Lesnar held the belt. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the feeding frenzy. Alright, with that being said, got even more to talk about. Time to get to the next segment, which is the mic drop.
Let the battle commence!
You know, with Evolution coming up, and I know that they set up Nikki Bella versus Ronda Rousey, with the Bellas turning against Ronda, but you know, between them or Charlotte versus Becky, I will take Charlotte versus Becky over Ronda versus Nikki any day of the week. And I got nothing against Nikki Bella as a wrestler, but, you know, in all honesty, her against somebody like Ronda will slaughter her. And I feel more invested in Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair more than I do with that one. And I know this will just add fuel to the fire, including, and I know because I've been one of those people who said this, about Charlotte Flair gets everything because of her name. But you know what? This is one instance where I would say, do it. Let her and Becky main event Evolution. A in this case, last woman standing match between those two to determine who's the champion. Why not? I mean, other than, yeah, Ronda is a former UFC champion and a brand name in herself, but also, and Nikki Bella, of course, with Total Divas and Total Bellas, but you want something that will really, really showcase how far the women's wrestling in WWE has come. And this isn't going to, and I just don't think Ronda versus Nikki is really going to do it. I think if you truly want to showcase quote-unquote wrestling, then you have Nikki Bella, or you don't end with Nikki Bella and Ronda Rousey. You end it with Charlotte and Becky. I guarantee you with those two and the talent in those two, you'll get your money's worth. Speaking of Evolution, you know, I know originally it was going to be Trish versus Alexa Bliss and Lita versus Mickie James. Now you've combined the two into a tag match. And you know what? I think it's the better call. I mean, consider, I'm just going by the length of time since Trish and Lita have been in the ring, to have each of them do a full match. This takes a lot of the pressure off for them and kind of carry the load in unison, which I think is a smarter move. And also, I mean, look, those two would have done well in a singles match because Mickie James is a pro and Alexa Bliss is, I will say, oftentimes an underappreciated talent. I mean, she did take a lot of flack from the internet wrestling community over her winning the Money in the Bank and then cashing in. But you know, I mean, this doesn't take away from how big this is for having two names that helped revolutionize women's wrestling in Lita and Trish Stratus. And having them, I mean, think of how big this is for Alexa Bliss. For her to be in the ring with three just total pros in Mickie James, Trish Stratus, and Lita. It doesn't get bigger than that. So, I'm all for it, whether it was a singles match or a tag match. Either way, I know it's going to deliver. And I'll definitely say for Trish, if it's anything like what she did at the Royal Rumble, where it looked like where everyone was saying she still got it, then you know what? We will definitely not be disappointed. And I was almost going to use the term stratified, but nah, or total stratisfaction, but I'm not about puns, at least not tonight. And one other topic I gotta talk about in this mic drop. You know, I'm very picky when it comes to wrestling games as of late, especially with WWE. But you know, I am not disappointed by 2K19 thus far. The My Career mode is definitely a huge improvement compared to the past years, and thus far, I've been enjoying it. Given I wish they'd hurry up with the downloadable content, because I really want to have either Ricochet's music or EC3's music, and I'm hoping they hurry the heck up with that. But thus far, the graphics are amazing, the cutscenes are good, and this reminds you of how good a WWE game can actually be. With the exception of WWE All-Stars, which, much like Electric Football, the board game, where people just said, this game sucks. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my mic drop. Alright, so with that being said, I'm going to take a little bit of a breather. We'll be right back, right after this quick message.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian H. Waters, and you're listening to The Shark Attack with Sean Williams.
Big shout out, of course, to my good friend Brian Waters. Make sure you check out his show, Break It Down with Brian H. Also check him and Dwayne Allen out on the Wrestling Realm. Check them out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, and of course on Podbean. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the segment where we go from the positives to the negatives, and where I ask that burning question, who writes this crap?
Who's in charge over there? This is aggravating me now. What, I can't count on you people?
I have had it with the Shield reunion and the quote-unquote Dogs of War. I've been saying this time in and time out. All that this Dogs of War trio has really done is sabotage Braun Strowman. Why? He was getting more over than Roman. They were cheering for him more than Roman. People were practically screaming and begging for Braun to cash in Money in the Bank. And you know what? WWE couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand. He was drawing more than the Golden Boy. That he was attracting more than the Anointed One, that is Roman Reigns. And WWE couldn't handle that. And even if you end this stable right now, I feel like the damage has already been done. And as far as the Shield goes, you know what? I know they seem to be setting up Dean Ambrose apparently deserting the Shield, but is anyone gonna care? I mean, there's no point in having Seth Rollins do it, because frankly, you already had that happen. You already had him turn against the Shield. What's the point of doing that a second time? And people have been begging for Roman to go heel, but WWE's never gonna do it. And so what if Dean Ambrose turns heel? What will that really do? I mean, we've already seen Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose in a feud. And of course you have the other problem in the fact that that Seth Rollins is the Intercontinental Champion, and yet when's the last time he's defended that belt? Doesn't feel like he's really doing much of anything with it. I mean, I miss the time where championships actually were recognized, and right now they don't feel like it, or at least not the Intercontinental title. And I guess the rumor is that it's going to be at WrestleMania a triple threat between all three members of the Shield, but are we even going to care by the time that match happens? I mean, what good in terms of drawing power has Roman as the champion really done? Given, still better than having a champion who only shows up once every 6 months. But I just feel like nostalgia it just has, even nostalgia has a limit to where even that has to have an expiration date. But I'll talk more about that in the next segment. But in the meantime, that's my answer to who writes this crap. All right, well, going from that segment to another, like I said, I got a lot I got to say about nostalgia, and it has to do with the quote-unquote crown jewel show, and that's where this next segment comes along. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Shark Fiction. So yeah, Super Showdown, we got the match between Triple H and Taker. Not a terrible match, but it's not their best one. In fact, I've seen much better matches than that. But, you know, they called his match against Taker at Hell in a Cell, or in Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania, end of an era. They called this for the very last time. At what point does the end actually mean the end? And yeah, Triple H finally got a win over The Undertaker, which I'm pretty sure he has, but not in a major show, but I don't know, could be wrong. But then you had the Brothers of Destruction lay out HBK and Triple H. HBK then announces on Monday he's coming out of retirement, and that it'll be DX reunited taking on the Brothers of Destruction. At what point do you finally reach tipping point where nostalgia just doesn't work anymore? Look, it's nothing against these guys. HBK and Triple H draw crowds. They're recognized. Their merch sells, especially the DX stuff. But Shawn Michaels has nothing to prove. I was one of those that wasn't clamoring for one more match. I accepted that he was done. I was fine with it. And not only are you having him come out of retirement, you're having him do it in a match at a glorified international house show like Crown Jewel. I mean, yeah, you did the whole thing. You did that whole thing with the quote-unquote greatest Royal Rumble. But you had that battle royal, and then now you're having this World Cup at Crown Jewel. In all honesty, you're going to run out of ideas for making some kind of tournament or battle royal like it actually means something, when truthfully it doesn't. I mean, what good really came out of it? Did anything good come out of Braun Strowman winning the greatest Royal Rumble? I don't think so. And as far as DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, maybe it's just me, but I'm over it. I don't really care about this match. Then again, I don't care much for this event, if it even happens. And with that recent story breaking out with Saudi Arabia, WWE may want to rethink it. I mean, look, I'm no businessman. I don't know what they were getting paid to do that show, but are you really willing to risk this PR nightmare that could end up taking place? I know they say that there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think there are certain loopholes that would actually count as bad publicity. And in all honesty, it looks even worse considering, or more complicated, in the sense that you have somebody that's working in the White House, namely Linda McMahon. So, is it really worth that risk? Maybe there ought to be a time where WWE, for once in their life, actually says no to something. And if they canceled this show, I wouldn't be shedding tears over it. All this is a glorified international house show, and I guarantee you, not a damn thing is gonna happen except a bunch of nostalgia. And at some point, WWE will not be able to rely on nostalgia anymore. Because you can't rely on Taker, Kane, or DX forever. And at some point, if you don't embrace the future, then it'll be too late. So, as far as I'm concerned, I could care less about Crown Jewel. So with that being said, that, ladies and gentlemen, is Shark Fiction. And finally, this is where I go to you, my audience, in a segment that I like to call From the Mouth of the Shark.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
This is where I go to the polls and questions and look and discuss the results, your answers, and of course, give a little bit of my own expertise with it, or opinion with it. So, first one I asked, and this kind of tackles a topic I asked earlier. Will a face turn help turn things around for Kevin Owens? And there were, in the terms of the people that voted on this one, all voted yes, that it would turn things around for Kevin Owens. And another question that I asked was, how far do you see Bobby Lashley going as a heel? And Mike McNulty, which I always love his responses to this. He did have one which he said, hopefully into the championship picture. Wouldn't mind seeing him with the Universal title in the near future. I think Leo managing him is an excellent fit. Why not put him on that main event tier? Shake things up a bit. I couldn't agree more. It couldn't possibly do harm to Bobby Lashley, and frankly, it's not like you're doing much with the Universal title right now anyway. I mean, the first title defense you had Roman Reigns do ended up being a total disaster at Hell in a Cell, and you're now having him, Braun, and Brock Lesnar fight at Crown Jewel, which may not even happen. So frankly, so far, putting the belt on him has been a waste. So, at this point, why the hell not? And with that being said, we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check out my Facebook group, aptly titled The Shark Attack, and of course, subscribe on iTunes and Podbean and on YouTube. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys again for listening. This has been The Shark Attack. I am Sean Williams, and I am out of here.